On September 26, 1991, 10 players were chosen to represent their country in the 1992 Olympics. Together, they form the greatest team of all time and have come to be known as the Dream Team.
This is a dream come true for me, just to be selected to the Dream Team. This is a team that, everyone would dream of playing on and dream of seeing.
I think it's the biggest honor for me to be asked to play on the Olympic team, and I can't wait for it to come.
It's an opportunity for me to make history. Not often in your lifetime you get a chance to make history.
Americans are very proud to be considered the basketball country, and I think it's up to us now to go over and show the rest of the world that we are number one in basketball.
And I think of all the students at my school who don't know Jesus Christ. I feel sad. I feel they're missing something. And I just wish that they could experience the joy that I experienced, the peace that I have in knowing that I'm not going to hell, the peace I have in knowing that God is with me and He cares about me and He's going to answer my prayers. He's going to be there for me. And it's just sad to see all these people and you know what they need. They so desperately need God.
Like I said, other people have different beliefs, and if they don't see that God's there, well, that's, I try to tell them that He is, but, when Judgment Day comes,
I mean, that is just so frightening. You know what will happen if you're not going to believe in Him and follow what He says.
When I think about how my non-Christian friends are separated from God, I am really discouraged for them because I don't see where they can go from there. They don't realize how far off they are, how lost they really are.
When I go to heaven, I don't want to be alone. I want to have all my boys like Turtle and all the rest of the guys who came with me. I want to have them with me by my side.
Hi, I'm Chris Kirk, and I was in the Evangelism and Awakening Dream Team. We discussed some exciting things and came up with 3 top priorities that we established for the ongoing work of revival in our youth ministries. And the first one was that we would have focusing in on our own personal relationship with Jesus and seeking Him for personal revival. We felt like the most important thing to do was to humble ourselves, to come before Him, and then to recognize our own weakness and our need for Him in our ministries and our everyday lives. The second area that we focused in on was the fact that we needed to return to the preaching of obedience and the obedience to God's Word, and that revival would only come as a result of our sharing with our youth groups that they needed to obey. And the third area that we worked on was mobilizing our students to pray for revival and spiritual awakening in their communities, and that they could set for the next 5 years to pray for revival to happen in their communities. Those were 3 areas that we majorly focused in on, and those are the things that we felt like were our priorities, and not only our priorities, but our action points, that we could go home and we could work on those 3 areas.
Gather together with your friends and family as the Inspirational Network and Youth for Christ present True Love Waits, the National Celebration, live from the National Mall in Washington, D.C.
Well, good evening. I'm Mac Heald.
Hi, and I'm Lisa Bell. We're your host for the evening, and what a celebration this is going to be.
Can I tell you something really cool that I just figured out?
Okay.
It's about how God wants to have a personal relationship with me and with you.
Why would God want to waste his time on me?
Well, to God, it's not a waste of time. I mean, he loves you so much that he sent his only son, Jesus, to die for your sins. He died in your place.
Okay, now I'm completely lost.
Let's see if I can explain it. See, in the Bible, John 3:16 tells us that God loved the world so much that he sent his only son, Jesus, to die on the cross for our sins.
So why did Jesus have to die for me?
Well, it's because of sin. We'll take your glass, stick it over here, okay? My glass, stick it over here. Say that your glass represents all the people in the world, and my glass represents where God is.
All right.
What's in between?
The pizza.
No, Mike, not the pizza.
All right, I'm sorry. Okay, keep going. What?
What's in between? There's nothing. Nothing's in between. There's just this big gap, this big chasm in between us and God.
And so sin causes that?
Yeah, but that's where Jesus comes in. I mean, it's kind of like this. Jesus is like a bridge that connects us with God.
Okay, but how does he do this?
Well, it's like this. See.
Hi, I'm Bill Graham, World Evangelism. No, I'm sorry. I'm Bob Wade in junior high ministry, and really we're the ministry where it all happens. And I feel bad for all you high school guys because you guys are in the history. It's history now. Okay, we're kind of where it's at. I just wanted to share with you some of the things that we're dealing with and we've talked about in our groups. We had a great group, and like some of the priorities. For example, we really felt like it was necessary to invest in families. We see that an investment in a family is a great thing for the future youth ministry. When you consider the fact that, like in our ministry, students will spend 1/42 of their time in our ministry. We really can impact their lives. And so if we're going to, we've got to get into the lives of the families so that families are not only modeling, but echoing the same thing that the church is echoing so that we can see young lives changed and really motivated. We also see that we need to be putting more emphasis on developing small groups, because small groups are really where it's at. With students today living in a situation where it's very unrelational, they play with computers and CDs and VCRs and stereos, and they need some place in their life where they can connect with someone. And so we're seeing that the need for that, it could really be a niche of the church, is to find those small groups and places where they can be. We also looked at sixth grade as an issue, or a priority in this case, is that really needs to come under the auspices of youth ministry. There's two ways that we could probably do this. One is that could go directly into a youth ministry, like a middle school model. We also see that they could happen in a preteen ministry based upon where you live. Like if you live in a large community, probably put it right in junior high. If you live in a rural area, make it a preteen ministry. But we feel like that's really important. But as far as specific goals, the one I would give you is we really feel like that the need is a real heightened awareness of junior high ministry among the network. There were 12 people that attended our group, 52 in high school. And yet if you realize that the most significant impact you can have for reaching lost students is in junior high, then the network itself and us need to take a greater priority on junior high ministries. And so that's where we leave you.
Hi, my name is Keith Kruger, and I had the privilege of just coordinating the Dream Team for high school. We had over 50 participants, so there was a great deal of intensive vision casting. We did a careful assessment of the needs of high school students. We came up with 5 important strategic areas and 5 action points to offer you. The first one was to disciple the high school student into intimacy with Jesus Christ. We thought the best action point for 95 was that you as a youth worker or myself or to develop that kind of accountability that with one other person in discipleship that would model that desire and delight and that intimacy. The second area that we had come up with was equipping lay youth workers. Not enough is being done in that area, and the team felt that we needed to deliberately and strategically invest the time to train and equip youth lay leaders to work with our students. The third area was to integrate biblical truth in our own lives and the lives of students, both Christian and non-Christian. And the action point would be that we as youth workers would deliberately go back and intend to integrate into our personal lives biblical truth and in our ministries. The fourth area was to develop a biblical sense of community, and that sweep covered family, it covered intergenerational issues, and so forth. And so the action point there was to develop small groups, some of them characterized by intergenerational involvement, and also to develop spiritual gifts within those that would encompass giving community. And then the final one, and probably very crucial, that we would work more diligently to reach this lost generation of high school students by using the latest in technology and various issues like that. So the action point was to develop, first of all, a prayer strategy that would be national, utilize high-tech communication, get online so students can communicate that way, and establish a united effort, which naturally in networking, that's our commitment. And so it was good, and we're glad that we had the privilege of just doing that kind of dreaming together.
Hi, I'm Carmen Mayel, and we had a great time in our dream team, which was concerning campus clubs, just to talk about a movement that we really believe has been brought about by God. And so in view of that, what we came up with was a single sort of mission purpose statement, and I'd like to kind of convey that to you. As God gives us opportunity and influence, our desire is to share the vision of reaching every student with the gospel message on every campus of our community. Number two, we wish to communicate the work God is doing both locally and nationally in and through the current student campus club movement. And number three, we wish to involve others in the process of campus evangelization via the campus club movement. We cited three top priorities or action points for the following year. Our first action point is to help pastors, youth workers, parents, Christian teachers, and students to recognize campuses as mission fields and students as missionaries. Secondly, we wish to encourage the National Network of Youth Ministries to include a significant presentation of the current Campus Club movement at Atlanta 96 and hopefully even at the Promise Keepers Convention. And number three, we wish to solicit all network members to retrieve and submit local area campus club data so that we can enter it and give input into the current database that we are developing. Above all, and finally, we wish to encourage everyone to prayerfully uphold what God is doing in and through the lives of students on campuses across this country.
Hi, my name is Seth Barnes, and I was a part of the Dream Team with Student Missions. And we had about 25 people participating on our panel, 21 of whom were white Anglo-Saxon male, most of those from Oregon. And I think it's not a surprise that we spent much of our time talking about cultural sensitivity. We found that there were 4 conclusions that we came up with. The first was that we'd like to see an association of short-term missions churches and agencies established. We took specific steps to see that that would be done. I just completed a lunch with the group of us that met afterwards to see how it might be done. We're going to have a number of initiatives so that in Atlanta 96 we'll have our first meeting of perhaps 100 agencies and churches in order to see that that be done. We're not sure if it will become something that's part of or under the umbrella of the network or not, but we've approached Paul about that possibility. Another thing that we'd like to see happen is an evaluation of short-term missions as a movement. And we know that it has an impact, but we're a little frustrated with the fact that we're always quoting anecdotes. Well, this impacted little Susie, and this impacted all these other people that we can tell stories about. But what about some statistics that we can quote? We know that it is a strong thing in our youth work, and we'd just like to see that the statistics can bear that out. A third thing that we'd like to see is a greater emphasis on a multicultural approach in our own youth ministries. We'd like to see the network emphasize that more, and how can we reach out in our own communities to others, other churches that are of different races and ethnic backgrounds. Then a final thing that we'd like to do is to see a list of suggestions. We spent some time brainstorming, and we had suggestions in 4 different areas. The first is, how can we better train our kids before they go, and our leaders as well. We also came up with suggestions as to how we can better train for ministry, ministry skills that a person can acquire before they go to the field, and long-term impact. We had suggestions on that, and cross-cultural training and relational training.
A friend of mine, she was at Hi, my name is Diane Elliott, and I was one of the leaders for the Dream Team talking about women in youth ministry. And some of the things that we discussed were partnerships with men, how we could encourage healthy role model relationships with students, how we could understand the biblical view of women's role in ministry. So we had a lot of great discussions. And from that, we came up with a mission statement. The mission statement says we seek to foster an environment of partnership in ministry between women and men that will accelerate the cause of Christ among students. And that's our hope. It's not self-seeking in any way. It's so that we together as a partnership can accelerate God's work in ministry. We came up with 3 action points in our group that I want to share with you that you can help to encourage women in youth ministry. The first one is we need to raise awareness, and we can do that by supporting one another a little bit more, and also by putting women in leadership positions in a lot of visible roles where we can be kind of looking up to them as role models. Secondly, if you're a woman in youth ministry, identify some other women, particularly in your area, and network and work together with them so that you can encourage one another towards growth in your relationship with God as well as your ministry with students. And I think together, working together in partnership, we can be more effective for the Great Commission, and that's what it's all about.
We're stepping out to let the enemy know, because it's not the people, it's the things they do, and it's the, a trick of the enemy. So we're here to let the enemy know that we're stepping out in the name of Jesus and taking back.
Hi, my name is Theodore Solomon. I'm from Inglewood, California, and I was part of the Dream Team on ethnic ministry. And one of the few things that we came up with, which would be some of our priorities for the next 5 years, number one would be developing a prayer and communication structure to help unify, encourage, and support fellow multi-ethnic workers. And what we got from all this is that we know that there's not a lot of people that's involved in the inner city and in ethnic ministry. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to develop some kind of structure so that we could all stay in contact with one another and resource off of each other. And it proved to be something that was high-spirited, and is something that we really all agreed on. We feel that together we can make a difference. Thing that we came up with, as in brainstorming with the team, is developing methods for family restoration, urban curriculum, and urban staff and youth leadership conferences. We've learned that here at the conferences, by sitting down and talking to one another, that we can resource together. That's one of the great things about the Network Forum, is that we can sit down, talk to one another, find out what's working in your town. You can find out what's working in mine. We can put these things together. We can keep the good and run with it, and we can take the bad and get rid of it. So I think this is a wonderful thing, and this part about the youth staff leadership conferences, that'd be a wonderful way to resource with families and other youth ministers. The third thing that we came up with was to incorporate fellow suburban workers and help educate both urban and suburban youth workers in seeing the value of all of God's people working hand in hand. This particular point was my favorite because I'm the kind of person, I just love people. And I think if we spread a little bit of that kind of joy around and have each other, just love each other for who we are and for what we stand for, then this would be probably the thing to do, and it would make God happy also. We believe that our relationship with God, our relationships with fellow youth minister workers, the kids we minister to, and the relationships we build with all of you will be the most valuable asset we can take into the year 2000. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diane Brask, and I had the opportunity to be on the Rural and Volunteer Dream Team. I consider what happened this week to be historic for rural America. I really believe this was a historical gathering. I'm unaware of any other time in our nation when people from rural America have gathered with a passion for what God wants to do in the country to discuss those needs. I think that God is looking for kids in rural America that will be world changers. I challenge you as a network to do two things. I challenge you, number one, to pray for rural America. It's time for us to hit our knees and ask God how we can focus on this urgent part of our nation's youth. So pray for rural America. Second, open up your eyes and look around you to the small towns, the countryside around you, and ask God what you can do to strategically target those rural communities that are around you.
Hey, I'm Jeff Moore, and I was a part of the music dream team here at Network, and it was a little bit different. Our dream team met in the evenings, and then during the normal dream team times, our team kind of spread out through several different ones to try and get a read on what was being heard and some ideas about music across the board. So we came with a little different intention maybe. We came ready to listen a fair bit more than we were interested in talking, because our hope was to hear some of the things that were important in Christian music and that Christian music could do to help facilitate youth workers and be able to take that back and hopefully speak some of that into the industry. So we were listening, and some of the things that we heard were these. The first is that many of you enjoy Christian music and are interested in using it. That certainly was an encouragement to us. We also realized there were a fair bit of challenges ahead of us of getting kids to really make Christian music a part of their life. Everything from them not liking it very much to not knowing anything about it. So hopefully some of these things can help continue the educational process as we go along. A few areas. The first one is the whole area of praise and worship. We heard that come out in many of the different groups. Particularly the Awakening group talked about how praise and worship is something that is a continual education for young people, that it's our responsibility as youth workers to help teach kids how to worship, and the music plays a very large role in that. There was encouragement on the behalf of songwriters to write songs that were really directed to God and help young people express through song their feelings about the Lord. The next area that there was a lot of interest in was the whole idea of concerts. We heard that people were not interested so much in just another concert coming to town, but that there would be events that would help tie together networks of youth ministry for meeting real evangelism goals. That concerts would be used to encourage local ministries, things like campus clubs, that there might even be a chance that that kids from an entire community could find out about different campus clubs that were available because they all came to the same Christian concert. They used the phrase that Christian music could maybe even be the voice of a campus club movement. There was also a desire to see concerts organized and promoted in such a way that it developed unity among local churches and parachurch organizations, because we heard that regularly, particularly in the high school group, the one I was in, that there's a great need for unity among different churches and parachurch organizations. And we heard from our friends in the whole rural Dream Team that there's some special needs that they have regarding concerts, that there would be maybe some mission-oriented responses from the part of artists that would allow them to operate on less than normal circumstances as they come to smaller communities, make some concessions that would make it possible for young people that come from remote areas to still hear good Christian music. We talked a lot about and heard a lot about resources. What can Christian music do in addition to just those tapes and CDs to begin to make a difference in kids' lives? Well, one of the first things was to make sure that the lyrics are very biblically sound and biblically based, and then to help develop tools around the recordings, things like Bible studies and videos. They were aimed both at Christians and non-Christian kids. We heard that there was a desire to see Christian music and the tools used for training of students, training of volunteers, and student leaders. We heard from our junior high friends that, and this came up in other ones as well, that one of the things that helps build Christian music is an accessibility to artists, more audio and video profiles where young people can hear and youth leaders can hear the hearts of artists and know who they are and where they stand. And from our missions Dream Team, we heard a desire to see some maybe multi-artist kind of compilation product that would be given early before mission trips took place, that had songs that emphasized that kind of service and could become maybe like memory points that would help relive and re-emphasize the whole mission experience that kids took on those trips. It was a very enlightening time for me, one that we've been able to get even some wonderful song ideas for our next project. I encourage you, pray for Christian music. We believe that, as all of us have heard, that there's a prayer for revival and great awakening and reason to expect it to happen. We believe that Christian music can be a very vital part of that, but we need not only faithful youth leaders, but we need faithful men and women creating, marketing, and creating these tools that go along with Christian music.
My name is Tim McLaughlin. I was a member of the Youth Ministry Publishers Dream Team. We were a group of about a dozen, composed of publishers and editors, creative directors, and youth workers, actual live youth workers with resource-oriented ministries. We explored issues and needs in youth ministry and how we in publishing should respond to them. We discussed ways we can be more effective together than individually, and we dreamed a bit about the possibilities of a database, where an online database where youth ministers could consult not just lists of titles, but entire texts of books and magazine articles. And we explored the possibilities of a one-stop clearinghouse where youth ministers could come to consult and buy youth ministry resources of every publisher, and not just, one publisher's catalog worth of materials. And perhaps most importantly, we took the rare and very humanizing opportunity of conversing as competitors and realizing that we are all not just editors and publishers, but we're all youth workers at heart too. And finally, we unearthed some publishing industry gossip. We figured Zondervan is to release a glowing biography of Hillary Rodham Clinton entitled The Youth Group Years. Focus has just started up a new magazine for ex-wives of youth workers, and Group Publishing agreed to buy the Wittenberg door and actually threatened to make it profitable. Of course, these tidbits may or may not be true.
Hi, I'm Dave Ron. I was part of the Christian Educators and Trainers Dream Team. We, as you can imagine, with some professional educators, had a tough time agreeing on anything, spent a lot of time getting coffee, but we did come up with some some focused energy around a common core curriculum for improving the training of youth ministry professionals. We especially focus that towards college age and seminary preparation. And we talked about it under 3 headings. What's the knowledge and understanding that folks need? What sort of character, commitments, and values are important for folks? And then lastly, what sort of skills are necessary? In order to kind of make that as practical as we can, we invited our team to do a mock interview. That was real valuable to ask those questions and pursue them. And then at the end, we came together around a pretty invigorating discussion about what the potential is for a certification of youth ministry, creating some standards that really raise the bar for the profession of youth ministry. And maybe this is where the one thing we'd like to invite all of you to help us with. This is in the early stages of thinking. Some professors of youth ministry from different colleges around the country have begun to noodle on this. We'd love to get a lot of input. In fact, if the only input we get is from professors, we're in trouble on this one. We're talking about certification standards such that we could sort of put a stamp of quality on folks as it relates to youth ministry profession. And we'd love to get great amounts of input. And that's the one thing, as you bathe this in prayer, that we'd like to ask from all of you.
You a $5 billion deal falling apart because of this? Why didn't somebody just shoot me in the head? Bang! Bang! Well, everybody just shut up!
I'm sorry.
And leave me alone for one moment more. Get him out of here, will you? I'm on the phone call of my life.
Come on, Jack, come on. Come
with me. Mom. I'll show you the window where your father and I used to stand and blow out the stars.
I never should have come here. I should have stayed till the deal was done.
You haven't been here for 10 years, though Granny asked you to visit every year.
I've been a little busy, Maura.
You promised the children some real time here.
I just got here. What are you talking about?
Examine them or yell at them.
It's not true.
How many more broken promises, Peter?
It's Brad, Maura. I gotta take this call. I gotta fix this.
No, you gotta fix your family first.
Peter, hello. Peter, you there? What?
I'm sorry about your deal.
You hated the deal.
I hated the deal, but I'm sorry you feel so badly about it. Your children love you. They want to play with you. How long do you think that lasts? Soon Jack may not even want you to come to his games. We have a few special years with our children when they're the ones that want us around. After that, you're going to be running after them for a bit of attention. It's so fast, Peter. It's a few years, and it's over. And you are not being careful. And you are missing it.
Hi, I'm Lisa Tegner, and I had the privilege of being a part of the Wives Dream Team here at the National Forum for the National Network of Youth Ministries. And I want to take the time right now to thank the network for providing this forum where wives are welcome. It's a good time for us to get together and catch a vision for national ministry when we're so absorbed in our own local body and our own worlds of being a wife and a mother or wherever God has us, that this is a great place for us to catch that vision and also be restored in our marriages and kind of catch a vision of what we can be as wives to our husbands. And it's my personal belief, and I think I share that with all the women that were here, that as the marriage goes, so goes the effectiveness of the youth ministry. And so the time that we had together has just been incredible. And I want to thank all you men who brought your wives, because I think there wasn't one woman in that room that that I wouldn't want for one of my close friends to confide in and talk to and just have a great time with. So they're wonderful people. You're all lucky men. As far as our top priorities for the future, I think all of us were unanimous in agreeing that we have to have continued growth in Christ personally, and that we have to find our significance in Him alone, and really see that God has a desire to use us as wives and as those who come alongside our husbands. We also believe that it's important to be vulnerable and honest about our walks with Christ, that we can't allow ourselves to be put on a pedestal for the church or for others to look at, and especially the high school students. They need to see the reality of our marriages, good and bad, because there's a hungry world of students out there who want to see a relationship that works and that's honest and that's dependent on God. We also want to make sure that we're taking the time to nurture our marriages by being purposeful and setting aside time. Things were shared and practical tips on how to schedule time with our husbands, and making sure that that's a top priority for him as well as for us. And scheduling that in seems to be the unanimous decision of the women, that it has to be in their daytime or it probably won't happen. That's another priority, to really seek God and say, what is it that God wants me to do as a wife, as a mom, or as a young person in ministry. Our third area that we see as a top priority and an action point would be seeking out and praying for mentors in our lives, women that we can look up to, that we can hang out with and admire their lives and find encouragement in the roles that God has called us into, and that's definitely a top priority for us.
My name is Larry Onan. I'm the chairman of the board of the National Network of Youth Ministries. And professionally, I help other organizations in their raising of money. I work with the executive and the business professional community around the United States and around the world. In the last few days, we've been working together here at the network and at the forum to find ways to integrate youth ministry, youth workers, and the business executive community together, that bridge. In our discussions today, we found a few good examples. One of those is the Chattanooga Coalition. That would be an ideal way to look and model to see how we can do this together, where business community is working hand in glove with the youth ministries in that particular city, and together they're making an impact, much more so than either one of them working by themselves. So we're talking about finding models, videotaping, creating short vignettes and short message stories, very targeted to specific audiences, circulating those into the marketplace so people can better relate to this subject. Another thing we're talking about doing is helping to identify people in your community right now. This is something that you could probably do immediately. Who is that one person that you believe has your heart, but you've never really integrated him into your ministry? Why not invite him to your next forum meeting, to your next youth activity? Show him what's going on and say, John, Sam, help us do this job. We need your expertise in accomplishing this objective. That's one thing you can do right now, even while we're creating concepts that would help you in the long range. Another priority we see for the youth ministry is many of you are not getting paid well enough, and you don't know how to create additional wealth and resources for long-term income. And believe it or not, we spent some time today talking about how we can begin to enable you as youth ministers to be effective long-term in your personal finances. We're looking to ways that might put you into secondary business or secondary activity. We don't know what they're going to entail at this point, but we find there's ways that if you're going to stay long-term in this occupation and see this is a real mission, that you've got to have a long-term perspective both in the business sector as well as your personal finances, and we're looking forward to do that. We do not know where this is going to lead us, but we have made a commitment even during this conference that we'd like to see youth ministers bring at least one. For instance, you in your city, what would it be like if you brought one individual to Atlanta 96 to be a partner with you and listen and come into a track of business professional people where we can share, interact together, and find ways to be effective? All you've got to do is bring them, be their partner, and we'll take care of the rest. Those are the kind of things we're looking forward to doing. We're trying to find those practical hooks that help you be effective and help them understand what youth ministry is all about. The resources are there financially and in many other ways, but they do not know at this particular time that you have the need. And we're trying to help you be effective in talking to them and them being effective in relating to you. When you get back home, why not call your businessman and ask him who is in charge of Rotary or Kiwanis or Lions? And then you become the key speaker at one of their next meetings, and you share the need of the youth in your city. These guys are hungry, looking for answers. You've got the answer. You've just never thought about maybe bridging into that particular community world. And we're trying to find ways to help you do that. That's the essence of what we've been doing. We're just beginning, but we believe there's a lot in the next few years that we can do together.
Hi, my name's Doug Clark. I was a part of the Network Coordinators Dream Team. And as we had our discussion, one thing that came out very clearly was that if we were to realize, are going to be able to realize a ministry that targets every junior high and senior high campus in the country by the year 2000, that these things will need to be high priorities as far as supporting local coordinators. One is to develop really effective ways to support and equip and train existing coordinators so that local networks all over America are effectively cooperating to reach every campus in their area. A second thing we think needs to be a priority is that we need to multiply the number of coordinators in every area of our nation. That includes identifying existing networks and then embracing and linking with those networks. A third priority would be to identify and develop funding sources at every level in order for more effective networking to take place. Specifically, we decided that we would take on these things for this year. One was to create a task force that would evaluate and rewrite coordinator materials, and we plan to have a rough draft available by May 1st and have it printed hopefully by the fall. A second action point is that each one of our task force members decided that they would use existing connections that they have with people to communicate more purposefully in those connections in every campus vision as well as network objectives. An example might be if they're a part of an organizational or a denominational network, that they would use that as an opportunity to communicate some of those truths. And then thirdly, each region of the network needs to be organized a little bit better in terms of an organizational chart that breaks down their region into manageable units. And that would be an area, state, or a metro area, or a local coordinator. But we also believe that you're really essential as an individual network member. Every chain is only as strong as the individual links. And if we, one thing that came out very powerfully at the end of our discussion was that we want to underscore how critically important you are in the task of networking, and that you recognize that if the overall network objective of reaching every campus in the country by the year 2000 is going to be accomplished, that that'll happen when all of us take personal responsibility to build relationships within our sphere of influence for networking, and understand that you are very, very important to that process. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Monteverdi, and I'm the spokesperson for Dream Team 300. Those of us in ministry, full-time ministry, who are over 300 pounds. Though few in numbers, we are growing. We have 3 action points that our group discussed over this weekend, and I'd like to present them to you now. Number 1, fewer conferences over the 4,000-foot level. This we consider a life issue. I'm telling you, it has taken me quite a bit of time and energy to get to every one of those meals, and I haven't missed one from that from the 8th floor of that tower. It's a life issue, trust me. Number 2, develop new youth wear catalog. How many times do camp shirts only go to extra large? We're sick and tired of that stuff. We have asked the Christian t-shirt company McDuck to hook up with Omar the tent maker and come out with a new line of clothing for those of us in Dream Team 300. And third, last but not least, we have also asked and have been in conversation with Alan Weed from Interlink to create a new Christian video line called Vision 300 for widescreen TVs only. We're a little tired also of only seeing skinny guys running around on all those Christian music videos. It's time to make a change. It's time to catch up to the 1995s, to the year 2000. God bless.
That's great, Dad.